Hey folks, it's Viejo here. The video you're about to see here is one that I'm reposting from my previous channel that had been deleted. So if you've seen this video, feel free to bypass it and move along to something else. Won't hurt my feelings at all. But I have had some requests to repost some of the videos from that other channel that are not likely to get channel strikes against them. So we're going to do that. And at the beginning of each of those videos, you'll see this very same prologue, so you'll know. All right, happy shooting, casting, and reloading to everybody. Catch you later. Hey guys, it's Viejo here. It is the last week of September here in 2022. Got another beautiful day here on the central coast of California. Starting to feel like fall. It's a little cooler today, although I've got 72 here in the garage. It's not quite that high outside. I think we're at right at 70 when I looked a few minutes ago. Today I want to talk about these RCBS cowboy die sets. I own several sets of these, and we'll talk a little bit about. There's kind of two different versions. There's a carb set and a steel set. The steel sets are for our straight wall rifle dies, and I have those for 30-30 and 38-55 and for 45-70. And here's our three sets for the straight wall rifle cartridges. Okay, these are all lever gun cartridges, obviously. And note that these are steel dies, not carbide. Whereas the revolver sets are carbide sizers. And the reason that I like these dies is for my cast bullets. They're not necessary at all if you're shooting a jacketed or plated bullet. But let me show you a couple things about some of these bullets down here. So here's an example of a cast bullet that got seated into a case that was not properly expanded for that bullet. And as you can see, we scraped some lead, definitely a lot of powder coat off of that bullet, and that's why I pulled it. I could see a little ring of powder coat and lead come up to the shoulder right at the case mouth, and that causes a couple of problems. One is that little bit of lead can get deposited in your barrel. And the other is that buildup underneath the lip of the case mouth can prevent a good crimp, and it might cause problems in getting this round to come into battery. Here's another one that it happened on, the 38 caliber bullet. Not quite as bad, but nonetheless that pushed up a little bit of lead underneath the case mouth, and that one did not want to pass my chamber check, and so I pulled it, and lo and behold, okay, we had scraped lead off, again, caused by a case mouth that had not been expanded properly for that diameter bullet. But the addition of our powder coat obviously takes our bullet diameter out a little bit more than what the design called for. So we have to resize those back down. And as you know, oftentimes for our cast bullets, we want these bullets to be a little bit bigger than we would for a jacketed bullet, bigger as far as diameter goes. All right, and that can cause this kind of an issue when we use a standard expander die. What we are trying to accomplish is come up with a suitable mouth flare that will allow our bullet to start and stand upright without wobbling around, and yet not have the case mouth scrape lead and or powder coat off as the bullet is seated. So the problem though is that with standard expander plugs and an oversized bullet, in order to make that all happen, we end up with a milder version of this trumpet mouth. Now this one I have intentionally over flared so that you can get the idea about what we mean when we talk about a blunderbuss or trumpet mouth flare. That's way over flared. You would never do it that much on purpose. And there's other issues with that. Mouth. One is that when we're trying to get that bullet seated, we get it started and it flops around, and we need to start that bullet as straight as absolutely possible. Well, that wide mouth lets the bullet flop around in there. And sometimes we end up having to hang on to the bullet like that and guide it all the way up into the seating die like that, okay? The other thing is that we reach a point with that mouth flare that the case doesn't even want to get started up into the seating die without scraping its way all the way up to the crimp ring. So what do we do about that? Well, we got to say that folks have been using these kinds of die sets forever, okay, with cast bullets and making them work, and they can still be made to work. I just think that there are some better solutions that will give us a better flare that are more suitable for our cast bullets, such as the Redux Premium Expander die, the Lyman M die, or the dies that come in our RCBS cowboy set. The cowboy die sets are similar as far as the sizing die goes. The seating die is a little bit different, and the expander die is a little bit different to help us with this issue of our cast bullets being a little bit larger. So what we'll do today is I'm going to show you just a couple of simple measurements of how these dies are different. We'll pick on one of these, maybe the 44 set. And one of the things we'll see is that the throat diameter of the seating die is wider, so that when we push a case into it that's been flared a little bit wider than normal, it's not going to scrape the sides of the die. And the expander plug is a stepped plug, like a Lyman M die or the Redux Premium Expander die. Okay. And for our examples today, we're going to look at the 44 Russian 44 Special cowboy set. Okay, if we open up the box, here's what we have in here. Typical RCBS, you get some product instructions and you get a little loading card, and we get our sheet of moisture absorbing paper. But there's a 3 die set. Okay, we've got an extra stem in there for seating. We get a round nose and a semi-wide cutter stem. And as you can see, these are beautifully made dies, brass lock rings, kind of a color case hardened finish. And so they're distinctly different from a standard RCBS set. They're easy to tell just by looking at them. So we've got our sizer decap. Okay. There's our expander and mouth flare. And then here's our seater. What I want to do here is get the gauge pin set out and take a couple measurements from some of the dies from these other sets and compare those measurements to the dies in our cowboy set. All right, so we'll start here with the Redux die. Go ahead and take the stem out of it. This is the cedar die, okay? And the die bodies of these cedar dies are tapered. We're not talking about this flare here right at the bottom, but down inside from the base of the die up to that crimp ring, there's a taper. And the purpose of that is to kind of start folding the edges of that case mouth in towards the bullet as the cartridge is inserted up into the die. And that helps that case mouth approach the crimp ring at a little better angle. Without that feature, as the case hit that crimp ring, it would be more likely to crush the case. So if we look down in there, you can see that crimp ring, all right? And we will take a 457 pin, and it has some slop, and I can feel it seating against the crimp ring. We'll go 458, and it has no slop, and it is not quite hitting that. Well, maybe it is. Let's try. No. The 459 won't fit the taper up in there. Okay, it won't go all the way down to the crimp ring. So the one that really goes all the way down to the crimp ring is my 457. Now, as far as the actual mouth goes, okay, that is my 460, and it won't go. Okay, the 459 will start. Okay, but again, it only goes in about that far. Okay. because our shaft in here is tapered a little bit. All right, so here's an older RCBS die with the cedar die with the stem removed. This is a 44 mag, okay, and you can see the crimp ring down in there. Okay, let's see what our mouth opening here is. Oops, kicked the camera. Okay, let's try a 459. No. 458. Close. 457. 457 goes, but it hits the taper before it gets all the way in there. And there's our 456, and that goes all the way in. All right. All right, and here's a Lee cedar. We'll go ahead and take the stem out of this guy all the way so you can look down through there. Okay, and again, you can see the crimp ring down in there. All right, let's see what the mouth of this one measures out to. So we'll try 456, goes easily, but not to the crimp ring. 461, or excuse me, that was a 460. 461 will start. 462 will start. 463 will start. 464 will start. Let's jump all the way up to 467. Okay, we can get all the way up to 467 started in there, but they won't go to the crimp ring. To get all the way to my crimp ring, I gotta be, that was a 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, 5.8. I think that's gonna be it. I can't tell. I think I'm hitting my taper. Yeah, I'm hitting my taper. Okay, before it'll go all the way to the crimp ring. So, nope. 457 before I can get all the way to the crimp ring in there. Okay, so here's our RCBS die with the stem removed. And let's first try the 460. Remember, that was the minimum one that would start in the redding. And that one goes in pretty easily, okay? It doesn't go all the way, but it does start. Okay, the 461 will start. Again, not going in very far. 462, that one gets about the same start that the 460 did on the redding. Okay, as far as going all the way up to the crimp ring, there's a 458. Kind of felt like it made it. 457 easily with some slop. So I'm going to say my 458's making it all the way to the crimp ring. It's tight up there, but it does make it. Okay, so we're a couple thousandths wider here in all our dimensions. So now let's yank a couple expanders out of some of these sets and take a look and see how they compare to the cowboy die set. So let's look at an older RCBS expander die. Okay, I'm going to pull the stem out of here. And notice how the shaft of that blends right in to that taper. Okay, there's no step in there. And if we check our diameter here, okay, we are at 426. Okay, let's go compare to the RCBS Cowboy expander, and then we'll also take a look at the Redux expander, which is very similar to the RCBS Cowboy. We'll go ahead and take the stems out of here. There's the Redux. Here's our RCBS. Okay. So the main part of the spud here on the Redux die about 0.428. Okay, would you buy that, 428? Okay, let's see what RCBS says. Okay, that part, we're just about the same, 428. Okay, but then when we get up here on this step, we're at a little better than 431, maybe 432. Okay, the Redding also has a step. See it there? Okay. Very similar. Okay, 432. So these two guys are just about the same as far as the expander plug goes. Let's take a look at a Lee expander. If you recall, the Lees are a powder through type designed to work with their powder measures. Okay, so let's take that plug out of there. And we'll take a quick look at that dimension. Okay, 428. Okay, not particularly round, but we're going to call that 428. And if we look at that, and again, it moves off that shank rather abruptly into a very sharp taper. And that's what produces our blunderbuss or trumpet mouth. So if I get my calipers right up there tight against that blunderbuss, we're up there pretty big. So we can see that from our measurements that the dimensions of the cedar die and the expander plug out of the RCBS cowboy die set are a little more favorable for our cast bullet loading than the comparable dies from other sets. All right, there you go. With a standard expander, we get this, this bell-shaped or horn-shaped or blunderbuss or trumpet-shaped mouth out here at the case mouth flare, and we don't like that. I mean, it works, but the bullet gets out in there and wants to wobble around in there, and it makes it hard to get it seated straight. Okay, when we flare them far enough to the point where we won't be scraping any lead as we push that bullet down into the case. So we don't like that. We like a stepped flare because it helps start the bullet straighter, and we like that step to be a little bit wider than normal so that we're not scraping lead. So that's why I like these dies. If you're going to be doing cast bullets and you haven't got your die set, for revolver dies, I would suggest these. These are not made in all calibers. I don't think they're made at all for our semi-auto calibers like 45 and 9mm. I could be wrong about that, but I've not seen them advertised that way. But they do make them for our straight-walled rifle cases, like 30-30, 38-55, 45-70. All right. And I think these run, I'm going to say $65 or something for a set. Sometimes you can find them a little cheaper, get them on sale. All right. But anyway, that's why I like them. I mean, they're pretty dies, but that's not really the point. Okay. In fact, if you already have a die set for your particular revolver caliber, you can purchase a separate expander die. You can go get a Lyman M die or the Redding Premium Expander and do just about as well. Although I think overall the set here is better for cast bullets. But that's just me. That's my opinion. That's my feeling on them. I like these dies and they work well for me. All right, for now, that's all she wrote.